電車で GO!
A speedy 7 months after the release of Densha to Go on the WonderSwan, a sequel appeared. This short turnaround did not allow for enormous leaps in gameplay and presentation. At best, it's the same but more. It's a shame really, as the longer a game series takes between releases, the more they benefit from improvements born from canny coding techniques and deeper understanding of the hardware. Take Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2, 3 years apart, night and day comparison. Had CyberFront taken their time, we may even have been graced with a WonderSwan Color version. That's right, this time Taito is not publishing Densha to Go 2, instead it is CyberFront who published the Taito developed follow-up. CyberFront had not been around very long before publishing Densha to Go 2. Formed in August of 1998, CyberFront were a Tokyo-based publisher that would go on to specialise in porting Western games to the Japanese market. Notable localizations by CyberFront include A-Train, Civilization, and Half-Life. They also went on to develop and publish their own series of fairly simple PC games. They stuck around into the 2010s, publishing games for the entire PlayStation family, Xbox 360, and Nintendo DS, before going bankrupt in 2013. They worked with Taito on porting several of their games to the PC. Taito classics Race Storm, Puzzle Bobble, Raiden, and even Space Invaders found their way to PC through CyberFront. And this is not the only release from CyberFront we'll be covering in this series. So what is different about this installment? Well, not much. A lot more work has been put into the presentation. The title screen is not dissimilar to the original, and the menu has the same limited set of options. There's no save feature to log completion or the high score table, but leaping into the game proper, we can see a fair bit more detail on the level select screen. It has been brought in line with the console versions, but only features a selection of 6 timetables across 4 lines: the Hoku Hoku line, the Akita Shinkansen, the Keihin Tohoku, and the Osaka Loop line. The lines are ranked on a 1 to 5 difficulty scale. Curiously, there are no level 4 stages, which makes you wonder why they stuck with the 1 to 5 rating. I guess they just really wanted you to know that the last 2 stages were absolute beasts. Which, by the way, they aren't. Well, the Komachi run is a little harder due to the tighter time limits and increased number of stops, but the Express Osaka Loop is actually pretty fun to play. None of the tracks are particularly harder than any other. On selecting your track, you're given a digitized image of the train you'll be driving and a station information board with your starting and stopping stations. And then it's pretty much business as normal. The HUD and scenery is mostly copied from the last game, but there is one significant difference. If you watched the video about Densha to Go 1 on the WonderSwan, you may recall that the graphics updated based on distance, with the scenery refreshing every 5 meters, killing any sense of movement when going at slow speeds. This time round, Taito have thrown in a lot more scenery frames at the departure and station stops. If we run a side-by-side view of the Keihin Tohoku line, the only line that appears in both WonderSwan games, we can clearly see the differences. Smoother scrolling, and not just better trackside detail, but clearer detail. The buildings have had detail removed, giving it a clearer look. The original game had a surfeit of detail on the buildings, possibly as a result of scanning and converting assets from the arcade or PlayStation versions. The background in 2 also has a greater sense of contrast, but I still prefer the design on 1. It also looks like Densha to Go 1 runs a little faster, possibly due to the lower demand on the handheld from the fewer frames. Due to the limitations of the WonderSwan's dot matrix LCD screen, it looks as though the overall brightness of the graphics has been lowered. Buildings that were once white are now mostly greys and easier to see on the original hardware. In the before times, these consoles did not feature a backlight. You were absolutely a slave to ambient light, which made a higher contrast in graphics essential. Anyone from back in the day will happily regale you with tales of playing a Game Boy in the car, body pressed against the car door, relying on passing streetlights to see anything at all. So graphically it's a bit better. Performance-wise, it seems most identical, aside from minor variations between train performance. I have to say there isn't a great deal of differentiation between the trains. You can pretty much develop a pattern for stopping and apply it across the board. Not so much for the Komachi, but the local trains are fairly similar. And even though the illusion of movement when stopping is infinitely better in this one, you'll still find yourself reading the HUD to stop accurately. But there is less of a jarring dissonance between what your train is theoretically doing and what's displayed on screen. In fact, to better illustrate the player's approach to the stopping point, a really useful proto-navigator appears in the screen margins. This shows your distance based on meters on the left and the last 100 centimeters on the right, allowing for super accurate stopping based on these alone. This feature would have been a blessing in the first game. The station pass-through system is still here and allows you to rack up a lot of additional waiting time. And the unfair speed limits are also here too. Once again, it is entirely possible to get a 45 km/h warning when doing 90 plus and ending your run. Fortunately, there are only a couple more games like this before it all goes away. One big step up from the WonderSwan original is the inclusion of the bonus game. Now WonderSwan players can know the joy of connecting two trains in the hopes of winning some more waiting time. Much like the PlayStation version of the game, your excellent performance is rewarded with digitized images, this time of Densha to Go merch. Do well and you will earn a digitized image of a can of Densha to Go green tea that was given away as a promotional item. Do very well and you are rewarded with an image of a Densha to Go pocket watch, an item that was advertised in magazines and the pages of the manual. It would have been a necessity for the authentic train driving experience. Something missing from this game is adverse weather. The Akita Shinkansen route has snow, but rain on the other tracks is just missing. You may recall that the original game told the player that it was raining by having the kanji for rain on screen and no other visual cues, meaning you could theoretically forget that it was raining mid-run and overshoot your station stop. Most likely it would be too much to have falling rain and maintain a clear view during play, so they canned it. The exclusion of rain does offer a more consistent run for the player, bolstering the suggestion that this was meant to be a time killer, a quick play on the train ride home from the office before cracking onto the game proper on your home console of choice. The snow looks good though, nice big flakes falling down the screen. There's also a rating system like the other versions. This time you are given an A to E ranking based on accuracy, ride comfort and safety. Once again, I find myself scratching my head as to what makes good safety. I regularly scored the lowest on this aspect and cannot tell you why. Surely arriving on time with a high passenger comfort rating has demonstrated safe driving? Who knows? I'm sure there's a reason hidden somewhere. And here's something else. This game has 2 ending credit sequences. Finish the routes on the Hoku Hoku Osaka Loop and Keihin Tohoku line and you'll get an ending similar to the first game. Middle-aged salarymen dancing in train costumes. When you finish the Akita Shinkansen runs, you are treated to a cockpit view of rolling Akita scenery with a chiptune version of the Komachi love song from Densha to Go 2 on the PlayStation. What a treat! I don't think there's much else to say on Densha to Go 2 on the WonderSwan. Once more, I am reminded of the heady days of the 90s where people were making consoles because they could and saw a quick buck in it. A time when your game could appear on half a dozen consoles at once. We will see as the 6th generation of consoles takes hold, developers stopped putting their eggs into many baskets and just banked on the most successful, paving the way to the 3-party console sphere we endure now. So, where can we put the WonderSwan version of Densha to Go 2? I think we're looking at our first C rating. It's a significant development over the first effort, both visually and in terms of quality of life additions. So, yeah, C will do. Looking at this now, I can see a time in the future where I'll have to have a shuffle around, but for the time being, this is a wholly accurate tier list for the first Densha to Go games. Agree? Disagree? Let me know below. That'll do us for now. Join us next time for another handheld excursion, this time on the mighty 16-bit powerhouse, the Neo Geo Pocket Color. See you at the next station.